I wouldn't just say it was America that's divided, but a lot of countries are divided right now in their politics. I mean, people are playing with socialism, people are playing with fascism.
Hey, hi, hello. Some legendary punk rock bands put out some stinkers, have they not? Some icons have been critically and commercially panned, and yet there are still some people out there who celebrate them. And today, I'm here to argue with them. This is just a casual little video to put out as I work on my next big one or whatever. So I asked my community of warriors for some hot takes, and I'm so glad that they pulled up and pulled through. So put them up, warriors. It's time to duke them out. Likes and subs. Let's go.
It's not as easy as you think. A lot of training goes into that.
How long is the course?
That's 2 nights.
The first hot take is coming to us from Alley Cat, and they say, "What the is a solid Black Flag album?" And right off the bat, I'm gonna have to say, I disagree with this. Even though I think it gets more hate than it deserves, and it is kind of underrated to a certain degree. But my God, the track list on this thing. Today, I pulled it up obviously before I made this video. I listened to the whole thing, and by the time it got to like track 16, I was like, God damn, this thing has got to end. It is absolutely so inconsistent. And I kind of see what they were going for with it. It does sort of sound like a Black Flag record. It's kind of like atonal and jagged, but it's also kind of meandering. It also kind of just like hangs around way too long. Super inconsistent, and the mix is absolutely brutal. Some songs, I will say, are bangers, like Go Away. That song is awesome, but unfortunately, it lies in a track list of a bunch of duds. If they like shaved off, I don't know, 12 to 15 minutes off this thing and put out like a tight 30-minute record, then maybe I could agree with this take. Maybe then it would be a solid record. Because from where I sit, I can't describe what I listened to today as solid. It was all over the place. It was many ideas happening at the same time. And it was like the band members didn't know what the other band member was doing. The guitar player was doing something that didn't work with the drums didn't work with the vocals, and some places were just kind of all over the place on this thing. But I will say, Ron Reyes' vocals on this are actually pretty good. They're kind of annoying in some songs, obviously. It is an inconsistent mess after all. But sometimes there are some shining lights of brilliance coming through Ron Reyes and his vocal cords. But this is great. This is exactly the kind of hot take that I'm looking for. And I can kind of see where you're coming from with it. I understand some of the appeal. It does kind of have that annoying Black Flag charm that I've never really been into, to be honest. They do have one album that I really like, and then a couple songs here and there. The EPs with Keith Morris, I think, were their best stuff before they started putting out records. But that's neither here nor there. To me, What The is not even Black Flag's worst album. That distinct honor goes to Family Man. Family Man is unlistenable trash. I cannot get through that thing without like reaching for the nearest screwdriver, you know what I'm saying? And another point that I want to make about this record is I think it gets more hate than it deserves because of its album cover. Greg is the main brain in Black Flag, and his brother, Raymond, did the artwork. He did the iconic artwork throughout their entire run. You know all those album covers? That's Raymond Pettibon, brother of Greg Ginn. The cover of What The is not that though. I don't know what the hell this guy is. I don't know what they went for. This is one of the worst album covers of all time. But because of that, it has that distinct honor in punk rock history, and it does rise above the rest. Like when you're talking about bad album covers, when you're talking about things that do not hit the mark, when you're talking about legends that put out absolute duds, this record is gonna come up 10 times out of 10. I love that people enjoy it. I personally do not. I would not rate it as lowly as other people though. Other people are rating it like 3s and 4s. Me, I'm kind of like in the mid-range 5 to 6, but in my opinion, you don't reach solid until you get to 7. By God, What The by Black Flag is definitely not a 7 out of 10 record. I don't know who could say it is. Apparently, Alley Cat can. And all the best to you. Enjoy. Because apparently they're coming back in 2025. Greg Ginn is like, nah, we have more stuff to do. You thought we were done? I'm Greg Ginn. That take is very similar to the next take we got over here, coming to us from Chris Norwood, saying Father of All by Green Day really slaps. More fun than Dookie in some ways. Now, I gotta break this down. There are parts of this that I do agree with, and parts of this that I certainly do not agree with in any shape or form. Does Father of All by Green Day really slap? Absolutely not. This record does not slap whatsoever. This thing sounds like a bunch of 50-year-old guys being like, wouldn't it be fun to make a pop punk record that sounds like it came out in 1952? Like, the songs on this thing make you want to do these kind of dance moves, right? Like the kind of dance moves that you saw in like the 1950s and 60s and stuff. And every song on this record just feels like it is going to be played at like a minor league baseball game somewhere. It's like they went for arena rock, but they ended up just being little league rock, you know? So the first part of this I definitely disagree with. It does not slap. But the second part of it, that it's more fun than Dookie in some ways, oh, I agree with that. I agree with that times a million. That is actually such a nice way to put it. Because Father of All is actually so bad, it's fun. And it's one of the best so bad it's fun punk rock records to ever come out. Do you guys remember the rollout for this album cycle? The billboard that came out that said, no features, no Swedish songwriters, no trap beats, 100% pure, uncut rock. And it was all like written in cocaine or whatever, with like their name written in ketchup underneath it or whatever. Dude, that shit's so funny. That is some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen in my entire life. The album cover on top of that is so funny as well. Let's take their revival record, one that I'm not personally super attached to, but let's take American Idiot, something that saved their career, and let's just like take ketchup and squirt all over it. On top of that, let's just put like a sticker of some rainbow barfing unicorn right on the front. You can't make that stuff up. That is actually what happened with Father of All. And to me, that's so fun. That's amazing. And just like I said about What the in the last entry, this is something that we're gonna talk about forever. So yeah, it is super bad. Maybe some of the worst stuff to ever exist, ever, but it has its place in history when you're talking about worst albums, when you're talking about biggest flops, when you're talking about off the mark album rollouts. This thing is right there. And not only in the punk rock world, I'm talking about in the whole music landscape thing over here. Green Day, Father of All, no Swedish songwriters, no trap beats. Very fun. The album is literally a riot. A gut buster from beginning to end. I listened to it all this morning and I was just slapping my knee the whole time, being like, this is great. Every decision is more baffling than the last. Billy Joel, that's something that you did. Oh, that's something that they cleared. You're allowed to do this? And there's so many theories as to why it is so bad or why it came out the way that it came out. Some people were like, well, it was their last album on that label and they wanted to send a big middle finger to them, so they gave them this pile of crap. Another thing, another theory anyway, that I hear all these like tinfoil hat fans saying is that it was bad on purpose. It was a joke. It was supposed to be like the Room of punk rock music. It was supposed to be bad on purpose. And to that, I don't think that that's true either. This album has millions of listens. It found an audience, an unironic audience of people that enjoy the record. And that's great. So I don't think that they really went out to make something bad. But it is a theory. Another theory is that they're just old and washed up and they had no idea what to do. My theory is that they were trying to be edgy. They were just like, let's do something to make people talk. The whole album cycle, everything from top to bottom, was just a publicity stunt. They knew they had other stuff coming down the line. They knew that this was gonna do numbers anyway. Like, I honestly don't think they went into it thinking, oh, we're gonna put out like a classic all-timer Green Day record. But it is bad, and bad is bad. You gotta just say that up front. There's a song on this thing called I Was a Teenager. I was a teenager. Give me a break, Billy Joe. Billy Joe. Play me a song, Mr. Unicorn Man. The record is so bad, but I'm glad that some people are out there finding some fun in it. Because it is fun to revisit, because we're 5 years on from this thing, and going back to it, I do realize, holy shit, there really is a place in history for this record. It really was a time and place. It might be one of their most memorable album cycles in the modern era. And by might be, I think it's like bar none. I don't think you can name another one that's even remotely as successful as this one from like a memorability standpoint. Like their new one, Saviors, you don't remember it as much as this. Like in 10 years when you're like, hey, do you remember what Green Day sounded like in the 2020s? The father of all stuff is what you're gonna think of because of how outlandish it was. And to that, I very much appreciate it. Next hot take, coming to us from Pantsik, says MXPX is better than Blink-182. Now right off the bat, I will say that this is kind of a hot take, but I do kind of agree with it. If you're just looking at the strength of the albums and how many albums that there are, MXPX wins, for sure. The Blink guys are way more charismatic and have much more like superstar appeal, but if you're judging record to record and live performance to live performance, MXPX is a better band, for sure. And another thing that puts MXPX a little bit above Blink-182 is that Blink-182's fall off was very drastic. Like they got real lame really quick. And MXPX just kind of kept being MXPX. But those like early MXPX records from the 90s, Life in General, The Ever Passing Moment, great records, absolutely very good. But then the next hot take is gonna poo-poo all over the last two things that we just talked about. Johnny comes in and says, Green Day's Basket Case is the catalyst that caused the musical abomination known as pop punk, and the tidal wave of bands that came with it. I love this hot take. This hot take might be my favorite one on the whole thread over here. I can't determine what the hot take actually is, because if the hot take is Green Day was responsible for like that pop punk explosion, well, that's not really a hot take. That is what happened, and Green Day can be thanked for that, or in your eyes, blamed for that, which is a fine opinion to have. But if your hot take is that it's a musical abomination and that they're bands and that it shouldn't have happened, well then that I kind of disagree with. Because yeah, some of the bands are definitely for sure 100% without a doubt. But I wouldn't have found bands like Descendants and Minor Threat. Hell, I wouldn't have even found bands like NoFX and Rancid if it wasn't for Green Day and Blink-182 and the other pop punk bands that were just like on the TV I was watching. So as much as you might not like the style of music that they presented or whatever, I wouldn't take away their contributions from it at all. Like if I went back in time, I wouldn't prevent it from happening, you know? But I love how passionate you are about it. The musical abomination known as pop punk and the tidal wave of bands that came with it. I asked for the people to get spicy and you got spicy. I hope you approach everything in life with this much vigor. Next hot take, also coming from Pantsik. Beatdown was a mistake. Metalcore in general was a mistake. And this, I'm gonna have to say pretty much the same thing I said to the last thing. It's like, yeah, it is kind of bad. It isn't really the greatest music in the world. It's very easy to make fun of, and there probably are more bad bands than good bands. But here's the positive way to look at it. Even if you hate it so much, you know what I mean? The most toxic, broken, unloved people in the world need a place to go, you know? And I'm glad that Beatdown and Metalcore exist so they can all file into those shows, you know what I mean? So we know where to go and who to avoid and what to expect, more important. So was it a mistake? I don't know if I'd go that far. Is it toxic caveman Neanderthal music? 100% no doubt, without question. Next hot take coming to us from Inder saying karate in the pit is better than push pits. Now this is a very divisive topic depending on who you bring it up with. Some people love the whole karate thing, the spin kick thing, the picking up daisies thing. If you're not doing that, you're not actually moshing in some people's eyes. They have no place for push pit behavior. They think push pits are beneath them. They're just gonna do their little spin kicks and their little windmills and that kind of thing. And I think that that's great. Like I said earlier, you need to read the room. There's a time and a place for the whole karate thing. There's a time and a place for a whole push pit thing. Sometimes your style of mosh doesn't match the style of mosh of the band that's playing. And that's okay. That really shouldn't prevent you from dancing though, you know? So do what you do with that in mind, and just know your style of dance, your style of mosh will be accepted with either a later band on the same bill or at a different show. Like, there's a place for it. But it's definitely easy to get out of control. If you're like out there in the middle of a spin kick mosh pit and you're doing spin kicks and you're doing the windmills and that kind of thing, that's all great. And it sure would suck if a push mosher came up and just pushed you, you know? But on the reverse hand, if you're in like a push mosh scenario and you go up and you start just like punching them in the face, that's also not the right time and place for that. The more shows you go to, the more bands you see, the more kind of parts that you hear, the more you'll be able to be like, oh, this is a two-step part, this is a D-beat part. Don't overthink it, just go out there and have fun. A lot of people just forget that at the end of the day, it is about having fun. Because the nature of a mosh pit on the surface level looks a little bit violent and a little bit unruly, it does open up the potential for it to actually get violent and unruly. So you will need to have a level of pit awareness when you're out there. You might take a couple shots, that's just the name of the game. But to me, I appreciate all movement. When a band is playing and people are moving, people are engaging, that is what it is all about. I love to see it. When you see a band that is connecting with an audience, that means what they got going on is successful. And I think going in on top of that and be like, that's not the kind of success that I like, or that's not the kind of dancing that I like, is a little bit too nitpicky for me. But you can go to somebody and be like, hey man, this isn't really the kind of show to actually go up and crowd kill. Or this isn't really the kind of show to go up and like push people around, you know? These are learning moments, and the OGs need to teach people rather than just like knocking them out or bullying them online. I think if I were to have a hot take about anything, is that like mentorship in punk rock is missing. And then the last hot take we're gonna talk about over here comes to us from Mandy Moorhall, and just 2 words, Judd Judd. It is the most liked hot take, and everybody else came in, I believe in Judd Judd. Spicy, easy, Judd Judd, Judd Judd. Judd Judd, Hud Hud has to be a close second, but perhaps Judd Judd? Apologies, English is my first language. Judd Judd for the win. So if you want to take part in these hot take threads, if you want to take part in polls, if you want to just get involved in these memes, I do it all in the community tab on this channel. So hit subscribe, hit the bell, hit always, and get notified when I drop one of these hot takes threads, and you could be a part of a video just like this. I want to do more community style videos, more casual videos, where we get the people that actually with the channel to have a voice. And I also want to introduce a segment where I save some of the critiques I get underneath some of the videos, and maybe I do a video series where I share those as well. That sounds like a lot of fun. And the reason why I want to do that is because these longer videos just take longer to make, you know? So in the meantime, if you want more content, I do have that gaming channel on the side as well, Filthy Frampton, and I will be bringing back the Art of Slop very shortly as well. So thank you for riding with me, I really do appreciate it. The big video should be coming out Monday-ish. So until then, have a good weekend, goodbye, see you later, and have a good one.